Hi, welcome to What Changed Your Mind. My name is Jen de Azevedo, and this is my first time doing this. It's kind of a labor of love, and I feel so not prepared to do it, but everything keeps telling me that I just need to do it. So I'm working with a really good friend. I've also partnered with a nonprofit to teach some of the stuff that I've learned over the years. I'm a certified mindset mentor. And I have some people in my life who I adore who are struggling with anxiety and depression, and I myself have struggled with it, but I didn't start out that way. I actually wasn't like that at all. I was just this carefree, easygoing kid, teenager, young adult, and some things happened that changed the way that I reacted with the world, and I felt really different. And so I'm gonna tell you my story and share some of what I've learned and how I ended up becoming a mindset mentor and coach, and hopefully help some people out in the process. So stick with me. It is a few hours later from that first little segment that I shot. I just get what I can when I can get it. I'm kind of a busy girl and I've got a thousand irons in the fire, so forgive me. The light's gonna keep changing because I'm sitting in front of, it doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, so I was born in Southern California. I grew up in a well-known family, very talented, very successful. My grandmother and her sisters were Grammy-nominated singers, and grew up in a family of musicians and writers and artists, and life was great. Southern California in the 80s and 90s, it was fantastic, and I just was raised in the perfect environment. My parents were and still are crazy in love. They're two peas in a pod. They just celebrated 45 years together. I just was always loved, cared for, uplifted, was always told that I could do whatever I wanted, was taught to be extremely respectful and hardworking, and everyone in my family was respectful. I have one younger brother. We got along fantastic, and never had any enemies in school, good grades, just everything naturally came easy to me, and I just thought it was always going to be that way. So my childhood was fantastic. We never wanted for anything financially. Both my parents were successful. I got married young and had three healthy, incredible boys, had a good relationship. Just life was great. And I just thought it was going to go on like that. I really did. And I didn't understand when people would complain about life and they would say life is hard. And I thought, life is fantastic. What are you talking about? And when I was about 28, we moved away from California, bought a house in northern Utah, and the first year was fantastic, and after that, crazy things started happening. My husband started becoming very angry and agitated, and lost his job, and I couldn't quite figure out what was going on. And long story short, he ended up developing a gambling addiction after he lost his job, and it was horrible. Gaslighting. I became a shell of the person that I had been before. 4 years of just emotional abuse, and never physical abuse, but a lot of that gaslighting that you hear about where they make you think like you're the crazy one. Family cars disappeared. We almost lost our house. I have absolutely experienced extreme spectrums in my life, being extremely comfortable and safe and happy, and not knowing how I was going to feed my kids, and being afraid of losing everything. And I watched my marriage just fall apart. 14 years of marriage and three little boys, and it was gut-wrenching. It was gut-wrenching, and I grew up in a very religious family, so I believed my family was really important, and that's why I hung in there and clung to it as long as I did. And then I finally realized that it wasn't a safe place for us to be. It wasn't a good place for me to be, and everyone could see that. I remember sitting at my parents' table one night, and my dad looked at me and he said, I just want my daughter back. And I just wasn't the same person. and I didn't feel the same on the inside. You know, I at one point in my life believed that life was good, that we were blessed. Even when things were hard, it was still good. And now all of a sudden, I didn't think that. Now life was hard. It was a struggle. Money was hard to come by. Being a single parent was hard. Everything was hard. And on the outside, you know, to the average Joe, I looked the same. I acted the same. But the people that really knew me, you know, my kids, my parents, they were like, something's different. And I felt like something's different. I didn't feel happy like I used to feel. And I think this was actually the benefit for me compared to other people that go through mindset coaching and mindset mentorship. They don't have that previous experience to compare it to, right? A lot of us are taught to feel guilty as kids, or we grow up feeling these specific negative feelings, and so we don't know any different. We don't know that that's what we're feeling. We just think life is hard. But it was so apparent to me. It was such a stark contrast, you know. I remember just thinking, when am I going to feel like that girl again? When am I going to feel like me? When am I going to feel whole and happy and joyful? And I kept looking for things outside of me to bring those feelings back, and nothing did it. I started a company. I worked my can off, you know, and that didn't do it. Relationships didn't do it. Any success that I had didn't do it. And I just went on this quest to figure out what had changed, what was different, because I wanted to feel that wholeness, that completeness again. And so I could tell you horrible stories of what I went through before I finally decided to get my divorce. Horrible stories. And the funny thing is, I didn't give myself enough credit for that even, you know. I wasn't physically abused, and so it didn't occur to me that there had been any kind of anything that I needed to deal with or handle. And I had a conversation with a good friend of mine who's actually a business partner of mine now. And she said, I said, well, it's not like I was ever physically abused. And she said, you were still abused. You were still emotionally abused. That's still abuse. And I was like, yeah, but it's kind of different. She said, were you ever asked if you wanted to call the cops or press charges? And I stopped dead in my tracks and I was like, yes, I was. And she's like, Jen, you were abused. You know, just because you don't have an actual bruise to show for it doesn't mean that hurts didn't occur, that there aren't things that you need to heal from. And that was really a big thing for me to even come to terms with, because I've always been taught to be very strong, and I'm kind of a willful soul. So that was something that even was hard for me to wrap my head around. This whole process was crazy hard for me. And so my goal with this is to try and make it easier for other people. You know, my son, I've got 3 sons, and my middle son has struggled with anxiety. And I read something once that said anxiety is just a crisis of hope. And I thought, oh my gosh, is that true? You know, that's what I had lost. Was before I knew in my gut that everything was always going to be okay, that I was blessed, that life was good, things were good. And after a long period of time of things not being good, something in me changed, and I didn't believe that anymore. And it is your mindset that controls everything. It's your thoughts. So I'm going to teach you a little bit on how you can change that. I'm going to teach you some things that I learned in some ways that for whatever reason, my head just didn't grab it. It didn't hang on to it, you know. I've heard so many different teachers explain it in so many different ways, and all of a sudden one day I went, oh my gosh, that's what they mean? Why didn't they say it this way? So hopefully I'll be able to help you with that. But stay tuned, because I'm going to teach you a little bit about conscious and subconscious minds and how that whole thing works, and hopefully make it digestible for you so that you can understand it faster than I did, because it took me a while to grasp it. So hang tight.